I don't fly a lot, but among those of you who do, what's the worst U.S. airport? Where have you gone? It's the worst airport. I would love to hear from you. 605-336-1320 is the Kello hotline. Give me a call this morning. 605-336-1320. I just don't fly much, but there's a story out there. Worst U.S. airports. I would love to get your perspective on it. What are the worst airports and why? 605-336-1320, because I know a lot of you fly. Maybe you're traveling to see family. A lot of you are traveling for work. Let me hear from you. Why do you rate certain airports at being bad? Let us hear from you. 605-336-1320, 605-336-1320. I mean, I haven't flown since I was a young guy. When a young man, I haven't flown since the early 80s. I take that back. Then a couple of times when I was actually in the National Guard. Now, you're talking 1980s. I was on a plane, military planes a couple of times. But that's hardly the same. I just don't fly. I just don't travel all that much. But for those of you who do, because I know some of you travel quite a bit, I would love to hear from you. 605-336-1320, 605-336-1320. Is that your experience? Yes? I'm going to bring in my producer, John, here. John, let me know when you're ready, buddy. Because my producer John does a lot of flying. And he's out there himself. He's piloting all over the place. He's always telling me about it and sharing his experiences. So we talk about it from time to time. Are you there, buddy? So I don't hear you. I'll just keep him in queue. You keep talking, John, and when I hear you, I'll take you. But John is saying that Denver is haunted. It's that it's built on Native American ground, the Denver airport. But John has done a lot of flying. But again, he flies himself. He's a pilot himself. And I don't know, if not every week, just about every 2 weeks, John's telling me, I'm going here, going there, and making all kinds of flights around. And I know some of you do. So I would love to hear from you. Phone lines are open this morning, 605-336-13. Oh, no, I know why I'm not hearing you, John. Hold on. Try it again, John. Are you there, John? Nope. We made some, we made some changes over here in the studio, which is one of the reasons why I'm fumbling around. So I would love to hear from you. Phone lines are open this morning. Where is the worst airport that you have been to? Because I know a number of you fly, whether it's to see family or whether it's for work. Some of you travel due to work. A lot of you drive, when you travel for work. Some of you fly. So let me hear from you. In your opinion, what is the worst U.S. airport and why? I would love to hear from you. 605-336-1320, 605-336-1320. There was a fascinating conversation. I thought it was fascinating. Clay and Buck were talking on their show last week. Did you happen to catch this? Where they were talking about, and I forget where the airport was. I was just fascinated by the conversation. An airport that had been closed specifically to people who were flying. In other words, you needed to have purchased a ticket to go into the terminal, right? If you don't have a ticket, you're not coming in to a lot of these places. And so now a restaurant is at a terminal saying, no, come on in. Come on in. We're opening it up now to everybody. If you want to come and you want to have dinner, absolutely come out and you can enjoy the amenities that we have, whether it's shopping or so at the airport. And I thought, yeah, that would not be my first. I would not be inclined, I think. I go a lot of places for dinner. You know what I mean? I will go a lot of places to try something new. Going to the airport, I don't know that would be my first choice. Seriously, I laughed out loud. And they were laughing about it, and Clay is, I like Clay because he's pretty, he thinks something's a bad idea. He makes no bones about telling you, a bad idea, I wouldn't do that. Forget it. I'm not going to do it. I was laughing as I was listening to them talking about it, but I thought he's right, he's right. Would you ever go to an airport? I think it would be different in a place like in a community our size versus going into one of the major airports. And it was a major airport that's saying we're opening up to everybody. You want to come and enjoy a bite to eat or whatever and do some shopping, you can do it at the airport. And I'm like, what? No, absolutely not. Million other places I could go. So I would love to hear it. For those of you who fly a lot, give me a call. Do you fly a lot? 605-336-1320 is the Kello hotline. 605-336-1320 if you'd like to join the program. 605-336-1320. Got a friend of mine who is saying, yes, Denver is creepy and poorly run, she says. Dallas is really spread out, but their amenities make up for it. But Denver, she said, she agrees with you, John. Denver is creepy. I've been to the Dallas airport years ago when I was going to basic training down in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We actually flew down a little bit south of Oklahoma, and then we took Mud Puddle Airlines. We took a flight then into Lawton, Oklahoma from Dallas. And Dallas, I remember, now keep in mind, South Dakota guys and as we're being told about this, the flights were going to be tight. And I still remember this. I remember the one of our training officers who was telling us, or I should say it was an NCO, who was telling us, now when you go down there, you're going to have to run from one side of the airport to the other to catch your flight. Don't mess around. Don't fool around. Just get going. So, and me, I'm not well-traveled at all. I never have been much of a traveler. And I don't know why. I'm just homebody, really. I mean, I enjoy a small amount of traveling, getting around. But not by air. I haven't taken commercial air flights for pleasure. I haven't done that. And so, when these guys are telling you, don't mess around, just get from one end of get to where you're going, make sure you don't miss flight, and so on. And so we did. And we didn't have time to really stop and enjoy any of the amenities then at the Dallas airport. But I just have either never really felt the need or I have thought about it, but just not much of a flyer. So I'm curious. for those of you who do fly, because I know it may be family, it may be business that you're flying. A lot of people who do. What are the worst airports that you've encountered? I would love to hear from you this morning. Phone lines are open. 605-336-1320 is the Kello hotline. 605-336-1320. So the Dallas Fort Worth International Airport is the world's second busiest airport. It didn't score well on this. They said didn't score well with its food, beverage, and shopping options. Also, the Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport, they got dinged for insufficient security staffing levels, among other reasons. So if you fly a lot, what are the worst airports where you've been? I'd love to hear from you. 605-336-1320. Good morning, Rick. You're on Kello.
Hey, Greg. Good morning. Happy Monday to you.
Hey, buddy. Good to hear from you.
As I'm getting ready to drive to Fargo here in about an hour or two. but
You're always on the road.
I am always on the road. But this week I'll be done with Fargo, and then I'll be in the Sioux Falls, General, Northwest Iowa. So it'll be nice. I'll be home almost every night for the next 3 or 4 months.
Oh, that's great.
But what I was going to say is probably my worst airport that I have been to, and I fly to a lot of airports, was I've never flown to Seattle. A couple weeks ago I had a meeting and a little thing that we did for work in Seattle. It was a quick trip. Wednesday, I flew in Monday, flew out Wednesday morning, and I'm at the airport in Seattle. The flight left at 5. I got to the airport about 10 after 3. Usually I get there about 2 hours before. I like getting to my gate early, and I've never been there, so I don't know how they operate. Get in the line for United. They didn't open up until, and keep in mind the flight boards at like 4:20 in the morning. They didn't get there until about 40 minutes before the boarding time, and there was probably a couple hundred people in 4 different lines waiting to get in. And then so I'm TSA approved, so I can go through the TSA pre-check and not have to take off my shoes and belt and take out my laptop and everything. So I go to the TSA pre-check. They don't open up until 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock in the morning. And keep in mind, the airport's operating. They got flights leaving, and we had probably 30 people in line for TSA pre-check until they opened up at 4 a.m. And I was going to go on the main line, but the main line was backed up even more. It was probably 200 people on the main line waiting to get on board their various flights. That was a horrible one. But I've been to another couple airports, Midway in Chicago, O'Hare in Chicago. Those are pretty bad. Minneapolis, I'm not a fan. I hate flying to Minneapolis, but sometimes I have to.
Why do you hate Minneapolis? What is it about it?
Just the way it's laid out sometimes. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's just not my favorite airport. I like Denver, and I was talking to John for a quick minute. I like Denver. I don't like the way it's laid out. It's a long airport, so with my luck, I always land at like B7. My next gate will be like B93, which is the different terminals are about a mile long. So I mean, holy cow! You got to get your stuff, get off the plane, get on, and then if you got like a 45-minute layover, you got to run almost to your flight. But they do have golf carts that these guys will pick you up in and drive you as close as they can or to your gate. And so sometimes if I've cut it really close because you got delayed at maybe Sioux Falls, they had to de-ice the plane, you fly into Denver, and then you once had maybe a 2-hour layover. Now you're having maybe a 45-minute layover or less, and you got to get from point A to point B. Those golf carts are nice. It's a nice convenience that they do to travelers, so they scoot across. They're honking the little horn. They got one of those little bicycle ding 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 little bells on there, right. And they're excuse me, coming through, and they're pushing you through the airport. But that would be I would say probably my worst one though in my travel. It would be Seattle. That would be probably the worst one, just the way it was ran. Just cutting it so close for people that are trying to get to your gate.
Now, as far as amenities, which of the airports that you've flown to do you think, hey, you know what, that was really pleasurable, I really enjoyed the experience there?
Well, some of the smaller ones, I got to say, our airport, and I'm not going to say it's little, it's a good-sized airport, if we're considering the region. I love flying out of our airport. It's 15, 20 minutes from my house. I live on the west side of Sioux Falls, so it's a nice little trip there. And but it's nice. But I like, again, not knocking John, I like Denver. They have some great restaurants there. Wolfgang Puck has a restaurant over by above gate, I think it's B35 or 33, somewhere around in that area. Upstairs, they have a great little restaurant, and I go there sometimes. And but I'd say it's that Denver, I think, has some great restaurants there and some great food choices when you have a little bit of a layover. And but I like Sioux Falls. I think for a regional airport, I think they're doing a great job. They're efficient. They get you in and out of there fantastic. And they have probably the fastest time from the time you land and go to your gate. Your bags are pretty much coming on the carousel. They're fantastic. They're probably one of the most efficient airports at getting your luggage from the plane to you when you land in Sioux Falls. Fantastic airport. I'm not saying that because I live here, and I'm a guy that flies.
Well, I understand that. Yeah.
Airport. Especially in starting about May, I fly back and forth to Montana for about 4 months. And I'm flying out of Bozeman, Missoula, Kalispell, Bozeman, Great Falls. I'm flying out of those little small airports into Sioux Falls. So I fly into Sioux Falls quite a bit in the summertime. That's when I do the majority of my flying, from about May to probably September. And they're fantastic. Sioux Falls just, boom, like clockwork, Greg. They are a great airport. If anybody ever has to fly, I know a lot of people go to Minneapolis or whatever, but for the money and everything, Sioux Falls is pretty competitive, and they do a fantastic job getting you out, getting you on, onto your gate, and getting you off and out of Sioux Falls, and getting you into Sioux Falls, and getting your luggage. They do a fantastic job.
Well, I'm so glad you called, Rick. Thanks for sharing your perspective. That's great. 605-336-1320 is the Kettle Hotline. We're talking about the worst airports. There's a story out. The worst U.S. airports, they've been ranked. The worst is Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport. Second is Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. And third is Denver International Airport. So Rick says he likes it, but the at least in this story about they're saying a lot of these facilities are dated, they're inefficient. Other airports that are not Chicago O'Hare, and I've actually been there. That was years ago. It was years ago, Chicago O'Hare. That was on my way down to basic training. I had more flights on my way to basic training than I've had probably the rest of my life, because we took a flight from Sioux Falls to Minneapolis to Chicago, I think Chicago to Denver, and I think in Chicago we stayed on the plane, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to, it's been so long ago, 1980s. And then down to Dallas, and then a small flight up to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then during my military career, I flew a few times, mostly on military planes. And I don't think I have not flown since I left the National Guard. That was 1989, 88, maybe, when I left the National Guard, when I completed my term. So I haven't flown in years, mostly traveling, by vehicle, and I don't travel all that much in general. So one of the others that did not get a good rating was Los Angeles LAX. There were I think the way that they tried to catch up on this as to whether some of these are being rated well. LAX actually did well. They have a good range of food and beverage choices. Drop-off roadways are often congested, though. Security and immigration standards are frequently slow and inefficient, they said. So, yeah, I don't know, listening to Rick talk about it and the patience that standing in line, it's like, I'm 60 years old. I don't have time left to waste. I've already wasted my time. I got to get going. I've got stuff to do. I've got to sit around somewhere.